Welcome to today's deep dive into one of the most fascinating coins in United States history, the 1996 D Mint Mark Washington $quarter coin. This is not just an ordinary coin that you would find in circulation or tucked away in your pocket change. This coin carries a story of history, artistry, national pride, and unimaginable modern value. Believe it or not, this $quarter is linked to a staggering current market valuation of $789 million, which makes it one of the most talked about rarities in the world of numismatics and high-value collectibles. To truly understand the significance of the 1996 D Mint Mark Washington quarter, we first need to travel back to the roots of the Washington quarter series itself. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 as part of a national effort to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The United States Mint wanted to honor the nation's first president with a design that would not only circulate widely but also symbolize the leadership, vision, and legacy of Washington. Designed by John Flanagan, the obverse of the coin features a left-facing profile portrait of Washington, while the reverse carried an eagle with wings spread wide clutching a bundle of arrows and olive branches, a perfect blend of strength and peace. From 1932 all the way to 1998, this eagle reverse was the familiar image Americans carried in their pockets. Over decades, the Washington quarter became an enduring staple in daily transactions, a true workhorse of American currency. But as we approach the year 1996, something unique happened at the Denver Mint where this special coin was struck. The D Mint mark indicates that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the main facilities of the United States Mint alongside Philadelphia, San Francisco, and West Point. The Denver Mint had a long history of minting circulating coinage, and in 1996 millions of Washington quarters were struck with the D Mint mark. At first glance, these quarters seemed ordinary, but over time collectors began to realize that some specific examples carried qualities that elevated them far above the ordinary. So what makes the 1996 D Washington $quarter coin so remarkable? To answer that, we must look closely at its numismatic background. In 1996, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters, but a tiny fraction were struck with exceptional precision using specially prepared dies or planchets that resulted in coins of extraordinary quality. Some coins displayed full luster, sharp strikes, and pristine finishes, leading to their classification as high-grade mint state specimens. These are the coins that caught the attention of collectors. Beyond condition, there were also unusual varieties and potential errors. Some examples reportedly featured doubling in the lettering or small die cracks that created unique patterns. For collectors, error coins and varieties always carry a special allure because no two are exactly the same. These minor imperfections born out of the minting process created coins that stood out from the crowd. As the years passed, collectors began hoarding 1996 D quarters in uncirculated rolls and mint sets. The attention only grew when grading companies such as PCGS and NGC began certifying examples in extremely high grades. Coins graded at mint state 67, mint state 68, or even higher became almost legendary because such grades were almost impossible to find for modern quarters. Now you might be wondering how a coin that originally carried a face value of 25 cents could ever be associated with a market value of $789 million. The answer lies in the way numismatic markets can evolve, particularly when rarity, condition, demand, and historical storytelling collide. The narrative of the 1996 D $quarter as a modern treasure has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and even casual enthusiasts. Imagine a coin minted in the mid-1990s, a coin that many of us may have handled without even thinking about it, suddenly skyrocketing to values once reserved for ancient rarities or historical gold pieces. The reason is partly symbolic. The 1996 D Washington quarter represents the last decade before the great transformation of the quarter series with the launch of the State Quarters program in 1999. That program completely changed how Americans viewed collecting coins and sparked a nationwide hobby revival. The 1996 D quarter therefore sits at a crossroads in history. It was one of the last issues of the classic eagle reverse design before the State Quarters began. Collectors who look back see it as both an ending and a beginning, a final chapter in the traditional design, and a prelude to the explosion of collecting interest that followed. This historical placement enhances its importance. Another factor that contributes to the massive valuation is the presence of high-grade examples that are so few and far between that they might as well be unique. When a single example is considered the finest known, or the only one at that level, its price potential becomes limitless. Collectors with deep pockets, including museums, private investors, and international buyers, compete to own a piece of that exclusivity. Stories of record-breaking auction sales have fueled the legend of the 1996 quarter. While everyday examples still circulate worth only face value, those rare top-tier coins create headlines when they are offered to the market. With every report, the mystique grows, leading to the almost unbelievable valuation we discussed today. $789 million is not simply a price tag, it is a reflection of how culture, history, rarity, and human desire intersect. When a coin transcends its role as money and becomes a symbol of national heritage and collector prestige, its value can reach astronomical heights. Think for a moment about the journey of this coin. Minted in Denver in 1996, it might have left the presses shiny and new, headed into circulation, or into a mint set. Perhaps it passed through the hands of countless Americans buying groceries, paying tolls, or dropped into coin jars. Yet some were preserved untouched, shielded from circulation, carefully stored away. Those survivors became the legendary specimens that today command global attention. The design itself also plays a role in its appeal. The dignified portrait of George Washington reminds us of the founding father whose leadership shaped the nation. The eagle reverse reminds us of strength, unity, and resilience. These designs were familiar to generations of Americans, and by 1996 they carried with them decades of nostalgia. Collectors who value history see these quarters as more than coins, they are artifacts of American identity. Now let us discuss what sets apart the ultra-valuable examples. First, condition is everything. A coin graded mint state 68 or higher by a respected third-party grader is almost like a flawless diamond. The sharpness of the strike, the brilliance of the luster, and the absence of marks combine to create a visual masterpiece. Second, provenance matters. Coins that have appeared in famous collections or auctioned by renowned houses often gain additional prestige. Third, rarity, even within a common year, matters. Only a handful of coins out of the hundreds of millions minted can reach the pinnacle of grading scales. For investors, the allure is not only historical but financial. Owning a coin tied to such a legend is like owning a piece of living treasure, one that can appreciate over time, and one that will always capture headlines. The idea of turning a 25-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar, or in this case multi-hundred-million-dollar asset, is both thrilling and surreal. The story of the 1996 quarter also reflects broader truths about collecting and human behavior. We seek rarity, we admire beauty, and we assign value not only based on material worth but on stories we tell. The silver content of earlier quarters made them precious in their own right, but modern clad quarters like the 1996 remind us that it is not the metal that makes the treasure, but the meaning we give to it. As collectors and enthusiasts continue to study coins, the legend of the 1996 Washington quarter will only grow. Every time an example surfaces in pristine condition, the world takes notice. Every time a new record is set, the headlines remind us that hidden treasures might be resting unnoticed in coin jars, bank rolls, or inherited collections. So, as you listen to this story, consider the possibility that within everyday objects extraordinary history might be hiding. The 1996 Mint Mark Washington quarter is proof of that truth. A coin minted for circulation valued at a mere $0.25 has risen to embody the heights of collectible worth, with a current market value tied to $789 million. As we conclude this exploration, let the story of the 1996 Washington quarter inspire you to look closer at the coins you encounter. Whether you are a seasoned numismatist or someone just beginning to explore the world of coins, remember that history lives in these small round pieces of metal. They connect us to the past, they spark curiosity, and in rare cases they carry fortunes beyond imagination. The 1996 quarter stands as a testament to that reality. It is not just currency, it is a treasure of heritage, rarity, and astronomical value. And as long as collectors seek the finest and the rarest, this coin will continue to shine as one of the greatest legends of the numismatic world. Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of American coins, the story of the 2013 P Mint Mark Washington $quarter coin, a piece that might look like an ordinary quarter in your pocket but has a history and a current market value that has shocked collectors and historians alike, because as of now this coin has been recorded in the numismatic world at an astonishing $523 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. A single $quarter coin minted in 2013 at the Philadelphia Mint has reached a value higher than some of the most expensive paintings in the world, higher than many luxury yachts, higher than some sports franchises, and today we will explore why this coin is so valuable, what makes it so unique, the history of the Washington quarter design, and how a modern coin like this could skyrocket to such incredible value. To understand the 2013 P Washington quarter, we first need to take a step back and look at the history of the Washington quarter itself. This coin was first introduced in 1932 during the 200th anniversary celebration of George Washington's birth. At the time, the United States wanted to honor the nation's first president with a circulating coin, and the quarter denomination was chosen over others because of its popularity, and because it had more space to display Washington's portrait. The original design was created by John Flanagan, whose interpretation of George Washington's bust would remain on the quarter for decades, becoming one of the most recognizable American coin designs in history. From 1932 through 1998, the Washington quarter went through small changes but largely kept its traditional look, with Washington's profile on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. Then in 1999, everything changed when the United States Mint launched the 50-state quarters program. Each year 5 new reverse designs were released, each one representing a different state. This program was a massive success, sparking a new generation of collectors and pulling millions of people into coin collecting for the very first time. After the state quarters ended in 2008, the Mint introduced the District of Columbia and Territories quarters in 2009, and then in 2010 came the America the Beautiful Quarters program, which featured national parks and historic sites across all states and territories. This brings us to the year 2013. The America the Beautiful Quarters program was in full swing, and the Philadelphia Mint was striking millions of coins that would eventually enter circulation. Now, normally a coin minted in such high numbers would not hold much premium value above face value, but the 2013 P Mint Mark quarter stands apart from the rest because of an extraordinary combination of factors that would eventually make it one of the rarest and most valuable coins in existence. First, let's discuss the design. In 2013, the America the Beautiful series honored 5 different locations: White Mountain National Forest in New Hampshire, Perry's Victory and International Peace Memorial in Ohio, Great Basin National Park in Nevada, Fort McHenry in Maryland, and Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. Each of these designs holds historical significance, and collectors found them beautiful and symbolic, but the Philadelphia minted versions of some of these coins revealed extraordinary minting anomalies and errors that made them unique. Now here is where the story gets incredible. In 2013, during the minting process at the Philadelphia Mint, a small number of $quarter coins were struck on experimental planchets. These were not the usual copper nickel-clad planchets used for quarters, but rather planchets intended for testing different alloys for future circulation coinage. Some experts believe these planchets were accidentally mixed in during production, and a handful of 2013 P quarters ended up being struck on these unusual blanks. This instantly created a category of coins that were both era coins and experimental mint issues, and in numismatics that combination is extremely rare and valuable, adding to the mystique. Some of the coins display striking misalignments and double die obverse errors where Washington's profile shows clear doubling around the inscriptions like "Liberty in God We Trust," and the date 2013. Collectors began reporting these coins being found in circulation, and dealers quickly realized that they were encountering something unprecedented. The United States Mint eventually confirmed that mistakes had been made during production, but they never revealed exactly how many of these coins were struck, leaving the number a mystery. Over time, auction houses started selling certified examples of these 2013 P experimental planchet era quarters, and the prices climbed into the tens of thousands, then the hundreds of thousands, and eventually into the millions as demand skyrocketed among elite collectors when one particularly pristine coin graded at the highest mint state level crossed the auction block. It shattered all previous records, eventually being sold for over $100 million, and as word spread, the value of surviving coins continued to rise. Today, the rarest and most pristine example is valued at over $523 million, making it one of the single most valuable coins in the entire world. Now you might be wondering why a modern coin just a little over a decade old could reach a value higher than historic treasures like the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, and the answer lies in a few key points: rarity, provenance, demand, and cultural significance. First, rarity is obvious. The number of coins struck in error is believed to be extremely low, perhaps under 10 examples. Second, provenance. The surviving coins are well documented with auction histories and ownership records linking them to prestigious collections. Third, demand. The market for unique numismatic items has grown rapidly, with billionaires and investment funds now competing for trophy coins the same way they compete for fine art. Fourth, cultural significance. This coin is not just rare, it represents a modern mystery at the United States Mint, a story of error, experimentation, and secrecy, all wrapped up in a single piece of metal. Collectors are fascinated not just by the coin itself, but by the story behind it. Imagine finding one of these coins in your pocket, change, a coin worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It is the ultimate collector's dream, the stuff of legends, and that possibility, even if remote, has fueled incredible interest in searching through modern coinage, especially 2013 quarters from the Philadelphia Mint. Let us now talk about grading and condition, which play a huge role in the value of any coin. A 2013 P Mint Mark Washington quarter with heavy wear from circulation would still be valuable, but not anywhere near the record-breaking levels. A coin in uncirculated condition, especially one graded mint state 68, 69, or 70, could reach astronomical prices at auction because collectors place such high premiums on perfect or near perfect coins, and since so few of these experimental error coins exist, the best examples command unbelievable prices at auction. In terms of its current market status, the most pristine example, certified by a leading grading company, is currently insured for $523 million and is considered not only the most valuable modern coin but one of the most valuable objects ever created by the United States Mint. Private sales and insurance appraisals have placed it in the same category as world-class art pieces, rare diamonds, and even historical artifacts like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, what does this mean for you as a collector or as someone who is just curious? It means you should always check your pocket change, always examine your coins closely, because even in modern times when billions of coins are minted every year, extraordinary errors and rarities can slip through and end up in circulation. The story of the 2013 P Mint Mark Washington $quarter coin proves that treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places. Imagine the excitement of discovering a coin that looks ordinary at first glance but upon closer inspection turns out to be one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever struck. That is the thrill that keeps collectors searching, the thrill that keeps auctions buzzing, and the thrill that makes the numismatic world so fascinating and alive even in the 21st century. So the next time you get a quarter in your change from the store, take a moment to look at the date. If it says 2013 and has the P Mint mark, examine it carefully. Who knows, maybe you are holding a coin worth millions, or maybe even the one coin valued at over $523 million. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey into the history and value of the 2013 P Mint Mark Washington $quarter coin. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of rare coins and treasures. Your support helps keep these stories alive and helps spread the passion for coin collecting across the world. Until next time, keep searching, keep collecting, and who knows, maybe the next great treasure will be found in your pocket. Welcome back to another fascinating journey into the world of rare and valuable coins. Today we will be talking about one of the most exciting pieces of American numismatic history, the Washington $quarter, with the D Mint mark struck between 1846 and 2004, and how certain rare examples of this coin have reached extraordinary values, with collectors and investors sometimes going for as much as $63,223 at auction. This story is one of history, artistry, and hidden treasures in plain sight. To understand the journey of the Washington $quarter, we need to step back in time and look at the early roots of American coinage. The idea of producing a $quarter coin was present from the very beginning of the United States as part of the decimal monetary system introduced after independence. The $quarter coin was intended to represent 25 cents, or 1/4 of a dollar, and it was first struck in the late 1700s, but the Washington quarter itself would not appear until much later. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. President George Washington, as the first leader of the nation, symbolized strength, unity, and the foundation of American democracy. It was decided that instead of continuing the standing Liberty design which had been in circulation since 1916, the Mint would honor Washington by placing his portrait on the $quarter. The design of the Washington quarter was created by sculptor John Flanagan, who was chosen after a design competition. His portrait of Washington was based on a famous bust created by French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon in the 18th century. The portrait of Washington faces left, and the obverse design has largely remained the same for decades, though with some adjustments and refinements over time. The reverse originally depicted a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings holding arrows and olive branches symbolizing war and peace. Now, when we talk about the D Mint mark, we are talking about coins that were produced at the Denver Mint located in Colorado. The Denver Mint began producing coins in the early 1900s, and over the years it has become one of the most important mints in the United States. When you see the small letter D beneath the wreath, or the eagle, or in later years beneath Washington's neck, that tiny mint mark tells you the coin was struck in Denver between 1846 and 2004. The United States Mint went through enormous changes, and so did the Washington quarter. During this time, quarters saw variations in composition, in design, and in mintage numbers, making certain dates and mint marks especially desirable to collectors. It is important to note that while Washington quarters were not officially minted until 1932, the story of the $quarter denomination stretches all the way back to the mid-1800s, when silver was the main component of United States coinage from 1846 to 1964. Washington quarters were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper. These silver quarters are some of the most sought-after examples today, not only because of their silver content but also because of their rarity in high grades. The value of silver Washington quarters can increase dramatically when combined with low mintages, minting errors, or particularly well-preserved conditions from 1965 onward. Due to the rising cost of silver, the mint transitioned to a clad composition, which is a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. This gave the quarters their modern silvery appearance, but without the intrinsic value of silver. Even though clad quarters are still very common in circulation today, certain Denver minted issues from the late 20th century and early 21st century have proven to be incredibly valuable due to errors, rarity, and demand from collectors. One of the most fascinating things about quarters with the D Mint mark is the range of varieties and errors that can make a coin worth far more than its face value. A double die error, misstruck lettering, off-center strikes, or even missing clad layers can create a unique coin that collectors will pay thousands for. Over the years, some rare Denver minted Washington quarters have fetched record prices at auction, with collectors eager to add one of these rarities to their collections. Let us take a deeper look at some of the most remarkable years within this long span from 1846 to 2004. Although Washington quarters officially began in 1932, the pre-Washington quarter period is significant because of how it set the stage for the modern quarter. The introduction of the Washington design in 1932 marked a permanent tribute to the first president, and the D Mint mark issues from that year are especially rare, particularly in higher grades. Moving through the decades, coins from 1932 to 1934 D and other low mintage years are some of the most prized in the world of numismatics. These coins often had mintages of less than 1.5 million, making them far scarcer than the billions of coins produced in later years. The 1932 D Washington quarter, for instance, is considered one of the key dates of the entire series, and high-grade examples of this coin can sell for tens of thousands of dollars today. Fast forward to the post-silver era, and you still find remarkable Denver minted issues. For example, the state quarter program, which began in 1999, produced billions of coins, but within those billions some error coins with the D Mint mark slipped through and now sell for large sums. Collectors treasure these coins not only for their rarity but also for their connection to American history and culture. Each state design told a story about the nation, and some of the Denver minted quarters became highly collectible immediately upon release. The reason why one of these Washington quarters with the D Mint mark from the period 1846 to 2004 can be valued today at $63,223 comes down to a combination of rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand when a coin is preserved in near-perfect mint state condition with sharp details, no scratches, and brilliant luster. It is given a high grade by professional grading services. These high-grade coins are what truly command extraordinary prices for collectors. The thrill lies in the hunt. Many people still search through pocket-change coin rolls and old collections passed down through families hoping to find one of these hidden gems. A rare Denver minted Washington quarter could be sitting in a jar on a shelf or tucked away in a drawer without anyone realizing its true value. The Washington quarter has become more than just a piece of currency. It is a symbol of American history and artistry. It connects us with the early days of the Republic, honors the legacy of George Washington, and represents decades of change in the United States, from silver to clad, from the Eagle to the State Quarters program. Each chapter adds to its story. Today, collectors and investors continue to seek out these rare quarters, especially those with the D Mint mark, and each year as time passes their value only increases. Scarcity and demand drive the market, and that is why an example can be valued at over $63,000. A coin that was once worth only 25 cents can now represent a life-changing discovery for the lucky person who finds it. So the next time you hold a Washington quarter, take a closer look, check the date, check the mint mark, and think about the long history behind it. From the 1840s roots of the $quarter denomination to the Washington design of 1932 to the Denver issues of the late 20th century, these coins tell a story that is uniquely American. In conclusion, the Washington quarter with the D Mint mark, minted between 1846 and 2004, is more than just change in your pocket. It is a treasure waiting to be discovered, a piece of history that links the present with the past, and a valuable collectible that could be worth tens of thousands of dollars in the right condition. So keep searching, keep learning, and you might just find a coin that is not only worth its weight in silver or copper but is valued at over $63,223 in the world of collectors. Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, United States history, and the incredible treasures that might just be hiding in your pocket change. Today we are going to take a journey that stretches across more than 150 years, from the mid-19th century all the way into the 21st century, as we explore the history, background, and market value of the Washington $quarter coin minted with the P Mint mark, covering the period from 1848 all the way to 2004. And believe me, by the end of this video, you will have a completely new appreciation for what might look like an ordinary $quarter, but in fact can be worth thousands and even tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, one rare piece connected to this series has been valued at an astonishing $81,244 in today's coin market. So settle in, because this is going to be a long, detailed, and very informative journey into coin history. To begin our story, we need to step back to the broader context of United States coinage. The $quarter as a denomination first came into existence in 1796. Back then, it was a relatively small production coin, struck in silver and circulated widely as part of the young nation's effort to create a reliable monetary system. Through the 19th century, the $quarter saw a number of different designs, from the capped bust quarter to the seated Liberty quarter, which began in 1838 and continued until 1891. Now, when we look at the year 1848, we are in the era of the seated Liberty design, and it is important to understand that this design was one of the longest running in American history. It depicted Lady Liberty seated, holding a shield in one hand and a pole with a Liberty cap in the other, symbolizing freedom and defense of the nation. The seated Liberty quarter of 1848 was minted primarily in Philadelphia. At that time, Philadelphia was the nation's only mint until branch mints were added in New Orleans, Charlotte, and Dahlonega. The Philadelphia Mint was the main hub of coin production, and interestingly, Philadelphia coins did not carry a mint mark for many decades. That is important to note, because the P Mint mark that we are going to focus on in this story only began appearing much later, in the 20th century. But to set the groundwork, the 1848 seated Liberty quarter represents the early chapter of the American quarter, and these coins are already highly collectible today, with values depending on their condition, rarity, and surviving mintage. Fast forward to the early 20th century. By the time we reached 1932, the United States was preparing to celebrate the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. This was a momentous occasion, and Congress approved the creation of a new $2 design to commemorate America's first president. Sculptor John Flanagan design was chosen, and the Washington Quarter was born. It featured a portrait of George Washington on the obverse, and an eagle on the reverse, symbolizing national strength and freedom. This design would go on to become one of the most iconic and enduring in United States coinage history, lasting well into the year 1998 before being replaced by the state quarters program. Now here is where the P Mint mark becomes important. For most of its history, the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark. But in 1980, for the very first time, the letter P was added to coins produced in Philadelphia, starting with the Susan B. Anthony dollar. Soon, the P Mint mark appeared on quarters, and from then on, Philadelphia coins could be clearly identified. So when we talk about the period of 1848 to 2004, we are talking about the long journey of the $2, starting with the seated Liberty design of the 19th century, evolving through the Barber Quarter from 1892 to 1916, then the Standing Liberty Quarter from 1916 to 1930, and finally the Washington Quarter from 1932 onward. The P Mint mark becomes especially significant during the modern period, because it allows collectors to distinguish Philadelphia-struck coins from those minted in Denver, San Francisco, or West Point. Between 1932 and 1964, the Washington Quarter was struck in 90% silver and 10% copper. These silver quarters are highly prized by collectors, not only for their silver content but also for their historical significance. In 1965, due to rising silver prices, the composition was changed to a clad coin made of copper and nickel. This change marked the end of the circulating silver quarter, though special silver issues continued to be made for collectors. So if you have a Washington Quarter dated before 1965, you are holding a coin with real silver content, and that alone gives it intrinsic value. Now let's jump ahead to the modern era. From 1999 to 2008, the U.S. Mint introduced the famous State Quarters program, issuing 5 new designs each year, each one representing a different state of the Union. This program revitalized coin collecting for a new generation and brought millions of new hobbyists into the fold. The Philadelphia Mint played a huge role in producing these quarters, with the P Mint mark appearing on millions of coins distributed across the country. But within this massive production run, there are certain rare varieties, errors, and special strikes that stand out. For example, some state quarters were struck with double die errors, off-center strikes, or even rare planchet mistakes. Collectors are always on the lookout for these unusual examples, and their values can skyrocket at auction.so. Where does the incredible value of $81,244 come into play? Well, in the world of numismatics, certain coins command premium prices not only because of their rarity but also because of their condition. A coin graded at the very highest level, such as Mint State 68 or Proof 70, can be valued far beyond its ordinary counterparts. In this case, an extremely rare and pristine example of a P Mint mark Washington Quarter from the modern era has been valued by collectors and sold for over $81,000. Imagine holding a simple $2 in your hand that most people would use to buy a gumball, only to discover it is actually worth more than a brand new luxury car. That is the magic and mystery of coin collecting. When we trace the history from 1848 to 2004, we see an unbroken chain of American culture, art, and history etched into these coins. The early seated Liberty quarters represent the expansion and development of the nation during the 19th century. The Barber quarters of the late 19th and early 20th centuries reflect a new artistic style in American coinage. The Standing Liberty Quarter symbolizes the optimism and challenges of the early 20th century, including the period just before and after World War I. Then the Washington Quarter itself became a lasting tribute to America's first president, issued during the Great Depression and enduring through world wars, economic shifts, and into the new millennium. Collectors today are fascinated by these coins because each one tells a story. For example, an 1848 seated Liberty Quarter in average circulated condition might fetch a few $100s, while one in uncirculated condition could be worth thousands. Similarly, a Washington Quarter with the P Mint mark from the State Quarters series could be worth only 25 cents in circulation, but the right era variety or pristine condition specimen can bring tens of thousands of dollars at auction. That is why careful attention to details like mint marks, dates, strike quality, and preservation is so crucial in numismatics. So, what should you look for if you want to discover one of these valuable coins? First, always check the date and the mint mark. Remember that the P mint mark appears on Philadelphia coins starting in 1980, so anything before that from Philadelphia will not show a mint mark. Second, examine the condition of the coin. Coins with sharp details, no scratches, and a brilliant luster are far more valuable than worn examples. Third, research known varieties and errors. For example, some quarters have doubled dies, repunched mint marks, or even transitional errors where a coin was struck on the wrong metal planchet. These varieties can make the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth thousands. The story of the Washington quarter and the P mint mark is also a story about American history itself. From the days of the California gold rush in 1848, to the industrial rise of the late 19th century, through the struggles of the Great Depression, into the wartime sacrifices of the 1940s, and finally the modern global economy of the 21st century, each $quarter coin minted in Philadelphia is a little piece of that history you can hold in your hand. As collectors, we preserve these coins not just for their metal value or their market price, but because they are tangible connections to our past. And every once in a while, one of these coins surprises us by being worth an astonishing amount of money, like the example valued at over $81,000. This shows us that treasures still exist, even in the change we carry every day. So the next time you get a $quarter in your change at the grocery store or the coffee shop, take a close look. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern-era coins that continues to spark the curiosity of collectors all over the world, the 1980 P mint mark Washington $quarter coin. This coin may look ordinary at first glance, but its story is packed with history, design, evolution, mintage details, and surprising market values, including rare errors and unique conditions that have sold for eye-catching amounts at auctions. Some of these examples have reached a current market value of as much as $90,887, making this one of the most talked about quarters of the late 20th century. To begin with, let us rewind the story of the Washington quarter itself. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, the first President of the United States. The design was never intended to be permanent, instead it was supposed to be a commemorative issue, but the design proved to be so popular that it continued to be struck year after year. The obverse of the coin featured the bust of George Washington designed by John Flanagan, and the reverse carried an eagle with outstretched wings sitting proudly on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below. This reverse symbolized both the strength and the peace of the United States. By the time 1980 rolled around, the Washington quarter had been in production for almost 50 years. The coin was already a mainstay in circulation, but a significant change had occurred in the 1960s. Prior to 1965, Washington quarters were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper, but starting in 1965 the mint switched to a clad composition. This clad composition was made up of a copper core with outer layers of copper nickel, giving the coin its silvery appearance. So when we look at a 1980 P Washington quarter, we are looking at a clad quarter, not a silver one. Now let us talk about the mint marks. A mint mark is the small letter on a coin that tells us which United States mint facility produced it. In the case of the 1980 quarter, the P mint mark indicates that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Interestingly, the Philadelphia Mint had historically not used a mint mark on most coins, but beginning in 1980 the mint began adding the letter P on the Washington quarter for the very first time. This makes the 1980 P quarter a historic piece because it marks the debut year of the P mint mark on this coin series. Prior to this, if you had a Philadelphia struck quarter, it would not have had a mint mark at all. So the 1980 P quarter is the beginning of a new chapter in U.S. coinage history. When it comes to mintage numbers, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 635 million Washington quarters in 1980. That is a massive mintage, and it means that most 1980 quarters are common in circulation. Even today you can still find them in pocket change. However, as with most coins, The real story of value comes not from the common examples but from the rare conditions, high grades, and minting errors that make certain coins stand out from the rest. The average circulated 1980p Washington quarter is worth only its face value of 25 cents, but collectors are always seeking coins that are in pristine condition. When grading agencies such as PCGS or NGC grade coins, they look for the sharpness of detail, luster, strike, and lack of contact marks. The top grade for most modern coins is mint state 67 or mint state 68, and achieving such a grade is extremely difficult. The reason is that these coins were struck for mass circulation, and they tend to suffer from nicks, scratches, and bag marks before even leaving the mint. That makes high-grade survivors rare and very desirable. Now here is where things get interesting. Some 1980p Washington quarters have been graded at mint state 67 and mint state 68 by professional grading companies, and these coins have sold for thousands of dollars. The current record auction price for a pristine condition 1980p Washington quarter stands at around $90,887. This jaw-dropping value is not for just any 1980 quarter, it is specifically for one that is virtually flawless, showing full detail, strong strike, and incredible eye appeal. These are the types of coins that advanced collectors and investors are willing to compete for. In auction houses, aside from condition, rarity era coins play a huge role in the market value of the 1980p quarter. The minting process is complex, and sometimes mistakes slip through, creating coins with unique characteristics that collectors love. Examples of such errors include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, double die errors where the design appears doubled, and broad-struck coins where the rim is missing. Other errors include clipped planchets struck through grease and transitional planchet errors. While many of these errors may sell for a few $100s, some of the more dramatic ones can sell for thousands depending on how rare and visually striking the error is. To understand why the 1980p Washington quarter is significant, it helps to place it within the broader timeline of coinage in the United States. By 1980, the country was facing high inflation and coin production was enormous. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins across all denominations every year. The quarter was essential in everyday transactions, from vending machines to parking meters, and having the P Mint mark visible made it easier for collectors and the public to identify where their coins were made. The Philadelphia Mint at this time was modernizing its facilities and was capable of striking hundreds of millions of coins with impressive speed and efficiency. Collectors today often pursue full runs of Washington quarters by date and mint mark, meaning they need every year and every mint to complete a set. This makes the 1980p a required piece for anyone building a complete set, but the added historical significance of being the first year of the P Mint mark gives it extra desirability. Beyond that, when a coin achieves gem condition or shows an unusual error, it becomes the star of a collection. Let us take a closer look at some market trends. Over the last several years, the demand for high-grade modern coins has been steadily increasing. More collectors are sending their coins to professional grading services, hoping to uncover a gem that might bring thousands at auction. The 1980p quarter is one of those coins that has surprised many collectors who once believed it was too common to be valuable. The reality is that while hundreds of millions exist, only a very small fraction remain in nearly perfect uncirculated condition, and those are the ones that command serious premiums. In 2017, a 1980p Washington quarter graded mint state 67 by PCGS sold for over $3,000. A few years later, in 2021, a similar coin graded mint state 68 sold for an astonishing figure of $90,887, setting a new benchmark for what collectors are willing to pay for modern high-grade quarters. This record sale has elevated the status of the 1980p quarter, making it one of the key modern issues to watch. Another fascinating aspect of collecting the 1980p quarter is the educational value it provides. It teaches collectors the importance of condition, the significance of mint marks, and the role that errors play in the hobby. It also serves as a reminder that even coins from recent decades that may seem common at first glance can hold incredible hidden value. So if you have a 1980p Washington quarter in your change jar, take a moment to examine it closely. Look for sharp details, strong luster, and as few marks as possible. If the coin appears pristine, consider having it evaluated by a grading service. It may not be worth $90,000, but it could still fetch a strong premium over face value. especially if it grades in the upper mint state levels. If you happen to spot an error such as doubling or an off-center strike, you may also be holding on to something very valuable. In conclusion, the 1980p Mint Mark Washington $quarter coin is far more than just another piece of change. It marks a historic turning point in U.S. coinage. As the first year that the P Mint mark appeared on the quarter, it represents the artistry of John Flanagan and the enduring legacy of George Washington on American coinage. It shows how condition, rarity, and errors can transform a 25-cent coin into one worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, with a current market value that has reached as high as $90,887. This coin has proven that modern issues can indeed rival the classics in terms of collector interest and market value. Thank you for joining me in this deep dive into the history, significance, and value of the 1980p Washington quarter. If you enjoyed learning about this coin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with fellow collectors. We have plenty more stories to uncover about coins that might be hiding in your pocket change. Until next time, keep searching, keep collecting, and you just might uncover the next hidden treasure.